Hi, I'm Dr. Julian Somers. I'm a clinical psychologist and a researcher in Vancouver, BC, and I'm here today talking about homelessness, addiction, mental illness, crime, and the opportunities that we have to help people far more effectively and also help our communities. I started off in this field in the mid-1980s at Riverview Hospital, which was our large provincial psychiatric institution, and at that time we were deinstitutionalizing. Around the world, places were closing large institutions because we had the knowledge that it was far more effective for people if we supported them in their home communities, where they were surrounded by things that were familiar to them, most importantly, other people. And we've done a terrible job, particularly in BC, following through on the implementation of that model of supporting people. Instead, we've tended to concentrate people together. Now, increasingly, there isn't even enough room in the single room occupancy setting for people, and we have, as we see up and down the West Coast, the growth of encampments and people living rough on our streets, in our parks, and elsewhere, and with that, additional crime, an explosion of drug-related problems, both among the people themselves and in the surrounding criminal realm. The main point I want to leave you with is that this is completely avoidable. We can provide far more effective services. That's been shown in other countries around the world, Switzerland and Portugal notably, but it's also been shown here in Canada. We can help people redirect themselves from this syndrome. Many report being trapped in a kind of revolving door that is run by our government. And that's not an inaccurate rendering of what happens to people. It costs about the same to support people living homeless in BC. It's about $55,000 per person per year, as it costs to provide them with supports, to re-enter our communities, and achieve what the Portuguese described as social reintegration. And that's a key organizing idea regarding what works. When we provided people in randomized trials with the option to choose market housing with 24/7 support and encourage them to think about their futures, think about new possibilities for themselves, the results were profound. They were 70% less likely to be convicted of a crime than the people that were randomly assigned to receive usual services, and they were less than half as likely to experience medical emergencies, so emergency department visits, as people randomized to receive usual care. Something else we showed in Vancouver is that people provided with rich supports in a single building, congregate housing, did not improve anywhere near the same degree as the people who were provided with the opportunity to join existing mixes of tenants where they were not surrounded by others who also happened to have experiences with homelessness and serious mental illnesses. So the social mix that we provide for people is a vital contributor to their long-term health, just as it is for most of the rest of us. So what we're really talking about is making a new normal throughout BC that provides people with the opportunity to reintegrate, keeping in mind that when we meet them, they're on average in their mid to late 30s. They have decades of life ahead of them. Most wish to resume paid work, and that's a realistic objective. SFU, where I work, began working with not-for-profits around BC to summarize that evidence into a plan to agree to provide evidence-based supports in multiple regions of the province in a consistent way, something we don't do right now, and in a way that is accountable, also something we don't do right now, measuring the outcomes, ensuring that we can see if we're hitting those benchmarks I referred to, 70% reduction in crime, 50% reduction in medical emergencies. We put all that together into a plan. It's on the internet, Call to Action for BC. We presented it to then Minister Eby, he's now our Premier, and we haven't heard a single word back. But what the government has shown us is that their commitment instead is to continuing on the path that we had already established, and that unfortunately has been shown to really result in ineffective outcomes for people, ineffective outcomes for communities, and a worsening and worsening sense of crisis. So we can do far, far better. It's been shown here, it's been shown in other places, and I look forward in subsequent videos to seeing more about how we can get on with that task.